FH Sports.
Today we're covering the NFL. It's mid-season. We've got some WNBA and we've got some Major League Baseball for you. So it's going to be a very exciting show. I'm David, your co-host.
What's up, FH World?
This is Jeremy, your host. Guys, we are excited to cover this NFL mid-season review for you. We've got some exciting games we're going to get to in a little bit on that preview, but we're going to go ahead and jump into our sports recap.
It's an ugly recap.
All right, so with our recap, guys, we're going to talk about the NFL season as a whole. We're pretty much mid-season right now. We're going to talk about our NFL picks here in a second, what that looks like. But let's go ahead and jump into the NFL. We're mid-season.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the first team that is your most surprising team so far this season.
Man, hands down, the most surprising team, hands down, is the Washington Commanders. I mean, how can they not be? Look at the season they had last year. Then they go into new ownership, new coaching, new quarterback. And let's be honest, that Hail Mary play against Chicago wasn't a fluke play. They played like that all year, man. They're 6-2. So to me, that's the biggest surprise team. Them and the Minnesota Vikings. Well, and to me, not more the Minnesota Vikings, because if you're a fan of the show, I talked about Minnesota in the preseason, and I talked about they were going to be a surprise team.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the biggest surprise it's got to be the Commanders, man. I mean, after the disappointing year after year, and then it's amazing how new ownership comes in.
Right.
That you took our defensive coach, and he's their new head coach. They take Cliff Kingsbury, who got fired from the Cardinals because they felt like he wasn't the guy. Mm-hmm. But let's not forget, he's a quarterback guru. I mean, the quarterbacks he coached in college, if you go back, those guys have Heismans because of his coaching. He's the offensive coordinator. They bring in Jaden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winning number 2 pick. Mm-hmm. And you don't expect much, from new coach, new owners, new coach, just a new everything. And to be where they are right now, to me, man, they are my biggest surprise team. And I hate to say that, considering they're in the NFC East. I mean, but how can they not be, man? They are playing good ball. Jaden Daniels is showing why he was that number 2 pick. He's showing why he won that Heisman Trophy last year.
Right.
He's showing why he's a franchise.
Okay.
And why they invested in drafting him. And ain't like they went and made a lot of moves and, brought in, for instance, Chicago Bears with other pieces that they added, in free agency. Mm-hmm. They made some subtle moves. Nothing like splashy.
Right.
But their biggest move was drafting this kid at quarterback. And, man, it's amazing what the right system, the right ownership can mean to a franchise, to a fan base. And, hey, man, he's rewarding them for saying, hey, we believe you are the guy. So big shouts out to the Commanders. That's my biggest surprise team so far on this.
All right, so the Commanders, on the positive note, are the biggest surprise team. They made some what I'd say like some chess piece moves. They've got head coach, quarterback. They've added a few pieces, a good system.
Yeah.
And so things like the defensive-minded head coach, right? So they've done some things like that helped to catapult them to be a much better team. On the other side of that, let me ask you this question.
You already know
what team
you already know
is most disappointing to you this year so
you know
far?
what answer that is. There ain't no
FH Sports, we don't know, so we gotta hear.
FH World, we already know. When we started our Super Bowl picks, what did I say? The Cowboys. And I gave my reasons why I thought the Cowboys were but let's be honest. I'm so disappointed. I mean, like, heartbroken. It's so painful. I don't even want to watch them play on Sundays. That's how bad it's got, man. And let's be honest, with the team they have, this is basically the same team that went 12-5 last year. Same exact team. So you tell me why you can't at least duplicate the same success to now where the only time you come to play is in the second half. Because every game that I'm watching, they're only playing in the second half.
So let me ask this question, because you bring up a good point. It's the same team as last year.
Yeah.
You know, they got the quarterback paid this year.
Yeah, they got him paid.
But we're the same team. Now, when you look at the competition, we've seen some other teams get better this season. Do you feel like us not getting better, kind of just running it back, other teams have gotten a little bit better? You feel like that's been an issue?
Just look at the teams. Let's look at the teams that were good last year compared to the teams this year. Pretty much those same teams are running back with the same players.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. San Francisco 49ers, same team. What's hurting them? Injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas ain't got no injuries, so there's no excuse for that. Detroit's going back with the same team. Look what they're doing. Philly, same team.
Mm-hmm.
Look what they're doing. Green Bay, all these teams pretty much, other than, think about it, nobody really made no splashy moves. Outside of the Baltimore Ravens bringing in Derrick Henry, nobody from the contending teams of last year really made no splashy moves because they felt like they was a play away. Not a player, but a play away. A series away. So those teams didn't make any moves. They re-signed what they had because they knew what they had was good enough to get them to the place.
So do you think Derrick Henry would have made a difference for the Cowboys?
What?
We're having a different conversation today.
FH World, let me tell you something.
He had a very different conversation.
He wanted to go home. He's a Texas kid, played high school in Texas. He wanted to go home. But for some reason, Jerry said we couldn't afford him. And he was willing to take less money to go to Dallas. And they didn't. Now, for whatever reasons, outside of the lame excuses that we're getting in the media, I don't know. But, yeah, Derrick Henry would have made a difference just because he could have balanced that offense for us.
Got it.
He could have made that deficient offensive line look better than what it actually is because it's either you're going to pick your poison. You play 8-9 in the box to stop the run. That gives Prescott that leverage to throw the ball because he's going to have them open receivers.
Right.
That play action, that opens up everything. Look at Baltimore for you. Just look at that offense. Because you got almost 1,000-yard rusher in 9 weeks of the season. Look at that offense compared to the dismal offense that we're getting from the Dallas Cowboys right now. You tell me if he wouldn't have made a difference.
Hey, I mean,
but
definitely.
We had a choice between Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry. And he wanted to go home. But like I said, for whatever reason, Jerry...
And he said he wasn't even asking for a lot to come back.
He wasn't. That's the thing. Now, I don't know what his number was. I don't know. That's between him, his agents, and everybody else involved. But as a sports fan, just for me to hear, I don't want a lot to come home, I'm taking that deal. That's King Henry. So I'm taking that deal just on the strength. I know what this guy has done in the past, and I don't... Even with a bad Tennessee team, I didn't see no decline in his game. I seen a decline in the team, but not him.
Got it.
So I would have felt more comfortable, more better, bringing a healthy Derrick Henry in compared to what God knows what we got now.
Yeah.
You know, so.
All right. So on that, we see that Cowboys are a disappointment. So we're going to move past that a little bit, and we're going to talk about, sort of past it. We're going to look at our Super Bowl picks. We're going to talk about our Super Bowl picks. And, again, it's mid-season, so we want to kind of see how they're doing. So I picked the Chiefs to make it to the Super Bowl and even to win the Super Bowl. So right now at this moment, the Chiefs are undefeated. Now, I picked later on in in the year I did pick the Detroit Lions.
No, he didn't. He never even
I
decided.
did.
He
I
said
said
he
the
was
Detroit
leaning.
Lions.
He was leaning
Right.
toward
I
the
said
Lions.
I'm this close
Okay.
to saying the Detroit Lions. And so
He-
I finalized off air. I finalized
Oh,
the Detroit Lions as my team.
He's
And
now he
so-
wants to jump on the bandwagon.
Look, I'm not a fan of the Detroit Lions or the Chiefs. I just recognize the Cowboys were not going to get there. I just knew they weren't going to get there. So
True.
I said, if I'm trying to pick two teams I think can make it, one that a lot of people will probably pick the Chiefs, but then another I thought that would be a surprise team to make it to the playoffs. So 6-1, that's the Detroit Lions. Hey, they're rolling. The Chiefs are undefeated. So my two picks right now,
Your two picks are looking good.
they
Then.
look pretty good.
Looking good.
So we've got your two picks. We'll jump on your two picks for a
Okay.
second, and you can attack mine or whatever you want to say.
I
We've got the Cowboys, and we have the Texans.
Okay,
So you
half
picked
of
the Texas Super Bowl.
half of my Super Bowl team pick is looking good. Now, granted, I don't understand what just happened to the Texans against the Jets. That was an ugly loss. But at the end of the day, they're still 6-3.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still looking good, and they're still, to me, they are still a threat to the Chiefs. I mean, this was a crazy stat to me. Patrick Mahomes leads the league in interceptions. Most of the time, when you say your quarterback leads the league in interceptions, you're not putting undefeated in behind it. So that's a crazy stat that I'm like, he's leading the league in interceptions. He's like somewhere in the 10th range passing yards wise. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns, and they're still undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a testament to not just how good that team is, but how much they believe in him. To know that, hey man, he made a mistake. Yo, we know if we just keep the defense, keep us in the game.
Right.
Keep it close. I ain't worried about it. He might throw three interceptions. I know if we keep him in the game, at the end of that game we got a chance.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing we gotta do is give this guy a chance. He's gonna get us there. But when you say this about 90% of the league, you can't defense ain't gonna feel confident.
Right, just get into the playoffs, right? Playoff Pat, baby. Playoff Pat.
I mean, and that's crazy. But like I said, the Texans are looking good. Of course, they still got some things they need to address. Their defense isn't quite, playing at the level they did last year. Offensively, they've had some crucial injuries. Two of their top three receivers are down. Stephon Diggs is out for the year. I'm not for sure on how long Nico's going to be out. So I think that's hurting them right now. But at the end of the day, they're still 6-3. So I'm still of course I'm confident in that pick of mine.
So you're still good with the Texans?
I'm still good with the Texans.
Okay.
I'm still going to take the Texans. Of course I'm off the.
I mean, the Cowboys, maybe they turn around.
I mean, look, let's turn around. Yeah, we can turn around. We can turn around and look at a lot of things, but we ain't turning around and look at no Super Bowl. I'm gonna be honest with this. And I thought that getting his money would really elevate him to play at a much higher level, and it seemed like we only want to play in the second half. So I'm thinking let's start the game off with the backups. Because we only play in the second half anyway, so let's not even put that wear and tear on their bodies, and let's just play them in the second half. We might actually win a game.
Okay.
Because we're not getting so far behind and now we're having to play catch-up.
Unconventional strategy.
But, I mean,
try and see.
I don't know. What else could work?
At this point, right.
I mean, anything could work, because other than what we got right now, I mean, ain't hitting on too much of nothing. But if I'm having to I'm looking at the landscape of the NFC now, and midway through the season, man, there's some really good teams that definitely have a shot.
So you at this point, so make sure I'm clear.
Yes, I'm off of the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl.
All
yes,
right.
I'm off of that. Yeah, I am. Do I even think they're a playoff team? I don't even know if they're gonna make the playoffs. I mean, I don't even see them making the playoffs as a wild card seed, just because the simple fact that you got the Washington Commanders at 6-2, you got the Philadelphia Eagles at 6-2, Detroit Lions at 6-1. You got the Green Bay Packers, if I'm not mistaken, they're 6-2 also. Minnesota, they're 6-3 or 5-3, something like that. You're looking at all these teams that's ahead of them. There is no way, unless every one of these teams, everybody gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna tell you right now, Dallas, y'all like to tote guns in Texas. Y'all might go on a kidnapping spree. That's the only way we're gonna make the playoffs. That's the only way we're gonna make the playoffs.
And we do not condone kidnapping.
No, we don't condone that.
We do not condone kidnapping.
We don't condone violence or kidnappings. But right now,
it's just a sore loser talking. That's all.
But right now, Cowboy fans, I'm speaking to Cowboy Nation. I'm leaving all other politics alone. I'm talking to Cowboy Nation. We need a better team, and it is not a better team. I knew from the start, if Mike McCarthy doesn't get these guys' egos in check, that was the problem. I felt like he's a good coach. Don't get me wrong. The last 3 years have been good, but we didn't play well in the playoffs. And this season I'm starting to think it's a playoff hangover. Halfway through the season, we're still hanging on to last year's playoff loss. So I mean, I don't understand what happened to that. And I really did think, Dak getting his money, CD getting his money, and it's like both of them getting their money. They're not on the same page. You see them on the sidelines arguing with each other. You see the looks that CD's giving Dak, and Dak's looking at him like, well, you ran the wrong route. Well, either you ran the wrong route or you threw the wrong pass. I ain't for sure.
Right.
But I know somewhere along the line, there's got to be some coaching involved. And either the coaching's not getting it done, or the players aren't getting it done, or nobody's getting it done. But at the end of the day, when it's time to fire somebody, you ain't going to fire that $60 million player, because that's a lot of money to eat.
It is.
So who's going to take the rap for this one? Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
So long, Mike McCarthy, and we'll get a new head coach next year. I still want Mike Tomlin.
He called it, so we'll see. I think that's a good choice. I think Mike Tomlin is a good choice. So, all right, we've covered surprise teams on both ends, our Super Bowl picks. I guess last thing before we get into previewing some NFL games, would you like to, I guess, nominate who your MVP for the season is?
Oh, man. To be honest with you, I have a top 5 MVP list. To narrow it down right now is difficult.
Okay, so let's go with the top 3, because 5 just gives you too much wiggle room in there.
Let's get
down to 3.
I got 2 on the same team.
Okay, who you got?
I got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry on the same team.
Okay.
So that, to me, that like counteracts them both out, because I feel like the voters will look at it, well, is he that good without him, or is he that good without? I mean, but we already know what Lamar can do, and we already know what Henry can do. So you put them together, now you're seeing what you get. Even after that 0-2 start, and God knows what happened against the Browns, but they're looking like a completely different team compared when they played the Chiefs to start the season off. And I still think they're a threat to the Chiefs. I still think they're a threat to the Chiefs. I think they're a threat.
Because that was a really good game.
It was. So
tight game.
Those I would say like.
So those two were kind of like tied.
Jared Goff, would be on that list, man. But you know what? I'm gonna have to. This is where I'm gonna have to go. We're sitting here right now, just because of the situation he was drafted into, the way he's playing, the way he's leading these men. He's a child amongst men, considering he's a rookie, and he's leading these veterans to the record that they got, sitting atop of the NFC East. Right now, I'd say Jaden Daniels, man. I would. I just have to go with Jaden Daniels. And he's not leading the league in yards. He's not leading the league in touchdowns.
Or interceptions.
But those intangibles that he has, and where because it's based off the best record. 9 times out of 10, when somebody wins the MVP, it's the best team.
Best record usually, like the the biggest improvement still close to the best record. It's going to be in there.
So I feel if the Commanders keep on this same trajectory and they finish, not even win the division, but if they keep at the same trajectory and make the playoffs, I don't see why he wouldn't win it.
Okay.
I really don't, man. Just because of the way he's playing, I believe he's top 10 in yards. He's definitely, I believe he's top 10 in touchdowns. He's pretty much checking all the boxes where when you go to looking at the stats, he's checking the boxes, say, well, he's high number in this, he's high number in that. But at the end of the day, he's high number in wins.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm between Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson.
Makes sense. I mean, I think Daniels is that makes sense. A good pick. Let us know in the comments, who would your MVP be currently in the NFL at this point? And then also your Super Bowl picks. How are you faring with your Super Bowl picks? Is your team looking good? Is it promising? Or is it looking like one half of his Super Bowl pick, they will be heading home soon? So let us know in the comments who you pick for the Super Bowl and your MVP selection. Let's kind of see how you guys are doing as well. And then lastly, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this as well. All right, so that's going to be it for our recap. Let's go ahead and jump into our preview. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cover some game predictions for you guys. So the couple of games that we're going to cover, we're going to start with Pittsburgh versus the team you mentioned earlier, the Washington Commanders. These teams are both 6-2 at this point, so we're expecting it to be a good game. But what are your thoughts? What do you got on this one?
Man, I got potential both Coach of the Year candidates because I don't see both Mike Tomlin and Dan Quinn, are definitely in the conversation for Coach of the Year. So I'm looking at two, Coach of the Year candidates. I'm looking at, like I just said, my potential MVP candidate going against this new look Pittsburgh team. Because when the season first started, it was Justin Fields. And they weren't putting up the point, but they were still winning. All right, so you're 4-1. No, you're 4-2. You decide, let's go to Russell. We feel like he's going to open up the offense some more. He's going to expand it. And he's come in, he's went 2-0, and he's expanded that offense some more. And it's going to be a good game. It's going to be defense versus offense. That Pittsburgh defense trying to slow down this sensational rookie. Because when I say sensational, just look at the Hail Mary against the Bears. You got the Bears over here waving to the fans. Y'all, and then he throws his game-winning touchdown. So the kid has no fear. He's got the moxie of a seasoned veteran. He's playing like a seasoned veteran, going against this hard-nosed, slap you in the mouth Pittsburgh defense. Because everybody knows Pittsburgh's defense and what they're about. Right. We're going to beat you up. We're going to run the ball. And now we got Russell to air it out for us. So I think it's going to be it's really going to be an interesting game. I'm been debating on this, who's going to win. And I'm taking the Steelers. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm taking the Commanders.
Okay.
I'm taking the Commanders. I'm taking the Commanders in a low-scoring game. I'm taking the Commanders by. They're not. It's not going to be a blowout. Right. It's not even going to be a 7-point. I'm picking the Commanders by.
Field goal?
Yeah, field goal.
Field goal. Yeah, I can see the conflict within yourself trying to decide which team do I go with. The Steelers, the Commanders. It's a struggle.
It was, man, because.
If you could call it a tie, you'd call it a tie. But you're going to go with the Commanders with 3.
When we first started, talking about teams in the preseason, right? And to me, Pittsburgh was always an interesting team. You went to the playoffs last year, and pretty much what you went to the playoffs with, you got rid of them. And you bring in 2 different quarterbacks, 2 brand new quarterbacks, brand new system. Neither one of the quarterbacks have ever played in this system. So both of them are learning the system on the fly. Right. They're 6-2. All right, you're 4-2 with Justin Fields, and most teams aren't going to change quarterbacks when they're 4-2.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was interesting for Mike Tomlin to say, "Yeah, I'm 4-2, but I still feel like Russell gives us a better chance." That was an interesting move, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people was questioning, like, "What are you doing? You're 4-2. Why would you do this? Da da da." You don't question nobody like Mike Tomlin, because when he's got a vision, he's got a belief. He's gonna go what his gut feels, and there's a reason why he hasn't had a losing season in 17 years. There's a reason he's got 2 Super Bowl rings. There's a reason, even on a bad year, they still end up over 500. Because he's that good of a coach.
He is.
And he's even showing he's a better coach than what he has been in the past, because you give me a new offensive coordinator, so I'm changing my offense from last year to this year. I bring in 2 brand new quarterbacks that don't even know this system, but I'm going to run it with them. Russell's hurt, started the year, so he couldn't play. He was probably ready by week 2. Justin looked good. Justin leads them to 4-2 record. No coach. I don't care who it is. No coach is going to make that move. Nobody. Mike Tomlin makes that coaching move,
right,
and says, "Russell, here's the keys to the Bentley." We're driving a Ferrari. We got a Ferrari. But I believe Russell can get us to the Bentley. He gives him the keys to this offense that's 4-2 already, and says, "I believe you can do more." What more can you do when you're 4-2? But Russell has come in and he's proven him. Maybe he's proven him right, because he's won 2 straight. So I think this is his best coaching job ever, considering all the change that he has.
Gotcha.
And then on the other side, you got pretty much brand new everything, from owners to executives, coaching, quarterback.
Gotcha.
Once you make those changes to every level, they're supposed to be a struggle process somewhere along the line. And Washington hasn't got that concept of, we got to be bad before we can be good. Washington is good. They have been good since the day Josh Harris bought this team from Dan Snyder. And it's amazing what new ownership has brought life. I can't say brought life into players or the coaching staff, because it's his coach. Dan Quinn wasn't there last year to experience what the past regime went through. So Dan Quinn is new. Jaden Daniels wasn't there last year to experience what past quarterbacks have experienced in that regime and that organization. Some of the players have, like Terry Coughlin and some of the older veteran players that's been there for a few years. They've experienced the bad. For them to have brand new everything and to be where they're at right now, it's a tremendous whatever you want to say, to everything that they put in place to be where they're at. So that's why
it's a team. It's camaraderie. It's building that relationship, that trust. It's being able to gel together. It's possibly putting egos aside. It's giving a young quarterback some experienced veteran players to try to work around, be mentored, and then just having a coach having a game plan, the team buying into it, and going from there. So,
and it speaks to me. I don't mean to cut you off, but this speaks volumes to Cliff Kingsbury. Because like I said, he's coached some really good quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield. There was another one. He was Kyler Murray. He coached all 3 of those quarterbacks. And what does all 3 of them have from college? When he coached them, Heisman's. Now, granted, when he got to the NFL, maybe him being a head coach and offensive coordinator is 2 different roles. Because you have to control the whole team.
Right.
But being that offensive coordinator, you focus solely on one thing and one thing only. That's offense. And now that he's got a chance to focus strictly on the offense with his type of quarterback and Jaden Daniels, he's showing how good of an offensive mind, how good his system can be when he's not distracted by everything else that involves being a head coach.
Right.
So big shouts out to him for getting this chance and saying, okay, I got all this off of me now. I can focus on what I'm good at, and that's being the offensive guru that I'm known to be. And you gave me my type of quarterback, because those are his type of quarterbacks. Not the run first quarterbacks, but play out the RPO quarterback. I can scramble out this way and I can throw it 50 yards quarterbacks. So big shouts out to him for bringing his offense in. Jaden Daniels taking this offense, learning it, and being where they at. But at the end of the day, I'm taking Washington in a very, very close game.
All right, there it goes. Washington Commanders. He says by 3 points over the Steelers. So we're going to jump into, we got 2 more games we're going to move through for you guys kind of quickly. This one doesn't even require much discussion, but we've got Kansas City versus Denver.
You said don't discuss.
Go. What's your take?
What's my take? My take is Kansas City.
Doesn't require much discussion.
It really doesn't.
Close game or not?
Yeah, it's a close game.
Okay.
It's a close game just on the strength that Bo Nix is looking like a good quarterback. He's got him to a 5-3 record, and he's got belief in that team now. This isn't the same team for last year.
Let me ask you this question. We're picking Kansas City, right? You're picking Kansas City to win. Yeah. Close game. What in your mind has to happen for Denver to have an upset?
For Denver to have I can't say turnovers because
Kansas City can overcome the turnovers.
Yeah, they can overcome the turnovers. Ball control.
Okay.
Keep Mahomes off the field. The way to beat Kansas City is to keep Patrick on the bench. The longer he sits on that bench, the longer his offense sits on that bench, the better opportunity you have to win the game. And the way you do that, control the clock.
All right.
That's how you beat those guys.
Denver fans, if you guys are tuning in, it's giving you guys some strategy. Hey, try to put it to work. So we've got Kansas City over Denver. We pretty much know how this is going to turn out, but there is a possibility based on what he's saying for upset.
Any given Sunday.
That's it. You got to show up. Detroit Lions. We're going to move to the next game. Detroit Lions versus the Texans. So the Texans, that's one. Kansas City was one half of my Super Bowl pick. The Texans is one half of his Super Bowl pick versus the Lions, the other half of my Super Bowl pick. The Texans are 6-3. Lions are 6-1. What's your take on this one, sir?
My take, before the game against the Jets, my take was kind of good. Because I felt confident that the Texans could stand with Detroit. But maybe it was a mental lapse that they had overlooking the Jets to this big game. Because it does happen.
That can happen.
It definitely happens. But at the end of the day, you're not playing a high school team. You're not playing a college team. Those are professionals on that other side.
They are.
They're the reason that they are professionals. Because they put that work in to be professionals. Regardless of the team that they're on, they are still professionals. And for you to overlook a professional trying to look at another professional was detrimental to the team altogether. I'm not going to say that was on D'Amico Ryans, because D'Amico strategized. He had his guys ready, but that was just a mental lapse in them as a team. But then I go to looking at the injuries that they have. So maybe it wasn't a mental lapse. It's hard to overcome 2 of your starting 3 receivers gone. So that's a big hurdle to have to jump. And then you're going against Detroit. My God, but what they got in this water in Detroit, man? What they putting up 40s and 50s? I mean, it's crazy that this offense is doing the things they're doing, and they got weapons all over the field, Bo.
Right.
I mean, it's truly pick your poison with this team. You from your tight end Laporta to Amar St. Brown, Williams, and then you got Thunder and Lightning in the backfield. So it's like you can't play 8 and 9 because Goff's gonna eat you alive. He's showing why he got his 50. He's showing why he got his 50.
Well deserved.
Well deserved. Now, I'll be honest. Before they get to this game, now they still got a tough game against the Packers. That's gonna be a tough divisional game. So when this matchup happens, it could be a whole different ball game to where the Lions might not be up to their potential because of the war they just went through to get to this team.
You got it.
But at the end of the day, man, I'm about as conflicted as that first game, and it's a toss up. But I got to make a pick. FH World, I'm going to use my Super Bowl pick, and I'm taking the Lions. I'm sorry that I got to agree with my co-host, and it's not something that I'm proud to say. I got to go with him on this one. I do.
Hey, it's all right, man. Look, we got to take some L's sometimes. So, Detroit Lions over the Texans.
It's a close game, though.
It'll be a close game.
It's a close game for sure.
Anything can happen. So, you've heard the picks. Let us know, guys, what picks you agree with. Let us know if you disagree. Did you pick your team to win or lose? And also at this time, we're going to go ahead and show you what his record is currently. So, through the season, he's been picking a lot of teams to win, some teams to lose. And so you're going to see his record, see how you guys fare with him. And also at this time, again, remember, like, comment, and subscribe. So that's going to do it for our prediction segment. Let's go ahead and jump into our hot topic. So our hot topic today, what we want to talk about is the WNBA. They just finished up the series, the finals, Liberty,
yep,
with the win. So congratulations, Liberty.
Good series too, very good series, very good.
So
series.
we want to talk about the financial side of the WNBA a little bit. Their CBA agreement, collective bargaining agreement, they opted out of that recently. Yep. And so let's talk about what that means, what that looks like, and maybe a couple of reasons why they did it. So to start with, the WNBA, the women, so their arrangement is very, very different than their counterparts at the NBA, right? So we know the NBA, the men, they get paid about anywhere between 49 to 51% of the revenue gets brought in.
51-49
and
split.
So with that split, the cap is based on that split, and then in the NBA they have to pay at least 90% of that cap out. And then there's a soft cap in there where they can go above that, and we get into some different tax obligations and things like that. But the NBA, those guys are getting 49 to 51%, and then there's a cap that has to be paid at least 90% of that out. They obviously have higher veteran minimums and things like that than what the WNBA has. So what we're talking about right now, the WNBA, they're getting paid just under 10% of what the league brings in. So any basketball-related income, they're getting about 10% of that. And they also don't have the same luxuries as the NBA, as the men have. They're starting to get some of those things in place. True. And then also getting percentages of jersey sales and things like that, right? So they're wanting to be able to get more of that. So I want to be clear, the women aren't saying pay us a $100 million contract like the men are getting. They're saying let's have the equality, the equity there, that we're able to get a fair share of what we're helping to generate.
Give us what we earned.
So that's where the women are. That's where the WNBA is. They opted out. So what that means is that for 2025, the season will go on just as normal. 2026 is where we'll see things get a little interesting if they don't come to some type of agreement before the end of the 2025 season, right? So hopefully this was an exciting past season that we've experienced. We want to see that continue going forward. But to do that, they've got to work out some terms. And I'll say this. I think if they're trying to work on a negotiation to go from 10%, as far as negotiating, I don't think it's going to be wise if they try to jump straight to 50%.
No.
I think if they could try to hit 30%, for example, I think that would be a good middle ground, good improvement, is to say, hey, let's see if we can go from 10% share to 30%. We've got we were able to take considerations like the charter flights that they're working through, getting some of those things on the same page.
Facilities.
The facilities, make sure they've got top-notch facilities, increasing their minimum pay for rookies and veterans, things like that. So if they can be strategic in how they work this out and shoot for maybe 30%, I think that's a move in the right direction. What are your thoughts?
I agree with that. I don't think you should, try to, well, we want half of what the league brings in. No, I think you should, like you said, go with that 30%, but hold these teams accountable for what they do with the other parts. Like, for instance, there's only a handful of teams in the league that the women have their own training facilities, like the Aces, if I'm not mistaken, the Connecticut Sun. There's only a handful of teams that have their own training facilities where they're not sharing with the men counterparts. So I think they should look at, their management, the owners, and say, all right, we'll take this, but we want you to invest yours into us in our own facilities. Like you said, the chartered flights, invest back into us and making it better for us to put better product out there on the court. And then I think they should, after put in there that, they can opt out in so many years. As the revenue goes up, be able to opt out to be able to get more as the revenue goes up. I do think they should have that right and that opportunity. Don't hold yourself to this and say, well, we're gonna sign this CBA for 10 years, and then in that 10 years it's increased God knows how much.
Right.
And you didn't have your chance to get a piece of that pie because you locked yourself into such a long-term deal. Right. So I think they should, not year-by-year window, but every couple of years as the revenue goes up, as new partners come in, they need to come together as a union and look at the money that's coming in. So, okay, it's time to opt out and maybe get another 5%. Maybe get another 10%. To the point you're going to get to your 51% as the NBA. You're going to get to that as the partners come in, as the investors come, as new teams come in. Because
on the new teams are getting ready to. So by 26, they'll have three more teams. They're trying to get them to 16.
And
16 teams.
And now you got Patrick Mahomes, who's an investor into other sports companies, and he owns a piece of the, I'm not for sure, of the Women's Professional Soccer League.
Okay.
Team in Kansas City. So they're trying to get a franchise in Kansas City. They just built a brand new arena with the hopes of luring an NBA team, a WNBA team. When they built the arena, it hasn't happened yet, but he's fighting for that. He's pushing for that. So look for that to possibly be another expansion team, with this new arena. And you can best believe with a guy like Mr. Magic, he'll be able to get those ladies their own facilities, top of the line, everything, because he's willing to invest in something that he's going to see his money return on.
And here's one thing I think outside the WNBA that is helpful is the competition they have with a new league that has been started by WNBA players, has investors and things like that. So I'll let you talk about a little bit as well. But one of the things I think having this new league come about, they've got players already signed, is that now it gives the WNBA some competition. Now, they play in a different time of the year, so they don't overlap. And as long as, and I'm curious if their contracts allow them to play in both leagues. If so,
it does.
They'll be able to negotiate, I think, heavier against the WNBA to get that CBA agreement up because there's another league that's willing to pay them more, give them equity and ownership in the league.
That's
so kind of talk a little bit about that.
I mean, to me, it's all based off income. Because a lot of these ladies at the end of the WNBA season are going overseas. They're going other places. They're just basically like, outside of the big men's professional leagues, they got to supplement income from other places
Right.
to keep going, to keep surviving. Because after basketball season, you don't make no more money unless you are a Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston's, and Asia Wilson's, Brianna, those type
with
of
the
big,
promotions.
with the promotions and endorsements, and
Right.
so 90% of these women in the league, once the season's over, that's it. There is no more money coming in. So they have to go overseas, and this situation I had with Brittany Griner, I really think was an eye opener to Breonna Stewart and Collier when they started this league. Is, hey, look, let's see if we can start something at home to keep this money flowing, to keep us at home, keep us closer to our families. So there's not another potential Brittany Griner situation.
Yeah.
So I applaud them for that. But now it's time for the WNBA to step up as a league and understand that the reason that they done this is they didn't do this for themselves. They did this for their union, which they done this from player 1 to player 15. Because player 1, 2, and 3 are your best players, and probably each and every one of them have those extra endorsement deals that's bringing an extra income in. Well, player 15 don't. So for them to start this and understand that it's bigger than me, it's bigger than you, it's about us as a whole, and to get each one of them on board, because most of the league is comprised of current WNBA players, and to help them put that extra money in their pockets to keep them at home.
That new league.
Yeah, the new league, unrivaled.
Unrivaled, yeah.
So to keep them at home, to keep them from having to go overseas to, be away from their families for such a long period of time, to help them grow women's sports even further to the explosion where it's at now. So I think that was the whole concept, the whole basis of this idea, and big shouts out to them for thinking about other than let's make $1.
Right.
Now let's put $1 in her pocket. No, she doesn't get much playing time, but she can get playing time over here. She can supplement this income. She doesn't have to go away from her family. So I think now they put pressure on the WNBA and the league,
because you're going to give players, like you mentioned, 10 through 15, for example. You got to realize, just like in the NBA, players 10 through 15 aren't scrubs. Like, they were number 1 players in high school.
Yes.
They were likely highly ranked players in college. But when you get to the best of the best, sometimes the role that you need to play is different. And so players 10 through 15 will get a chance, if they sign in Unrivaled, to show their skill set.
Yes.
To show what they can do at the professional level, and then be able to take that and come back to the WNBA and negotiate and say, hey, you saw what I'm able to do against my peers, because, again, it's a lot of WNBA players in the Unrivaled League. And you may get some other players that aren't, but they'll be able to kind of put their skill set on display, and they may be a second leading scorer on their team in Unrivaled, where they're on the bench in the WNBA. So I look at it very similar to the NFL and the USFL.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the name is. They changed the name. I can't remember if it's USFL now.
USFL. Yeah.
But and I like how they're starting this Unrivaled, is that it's not at the same time as the WNBA. So they're not directly competing where they're going to potentially fail. They're actually in the off season for the WNBA.
They're training. To me,
and they're giving them time and opportunity to play, build this league up. So just like we can have, professional football almost year-round, twice a year now. Now you have the WNBA the same way.
True.
And even the NBA with the 3-on-3 league.
Big Three. Big Three, yeah.
Yeah, the Big Three league. So it's something like that where they don't have necessarily current NBA players, but they are trying to pull some.
They're trying to pull some, yeah.
And so, again, all this matters around contracts. Well, the business side of this is what's important for the WNBA, is that their employees, these ladies, are now being able to increase their stock, increase their value, and be able to demand a higher pay from what would be a newer, smaller competitor. If they can pay me $300,000 in this league, why can't the WNBA, who just got that huge $200 million, billion agreement.
It's a 2 point. It's a potential to be up to $3 billion.
Yes, $200 million over the next, I think, 10 years.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, it's $2.2 billion.
Right.
But they're getting ready to bring more partners in, so it's going to push it to $3 billion over 10 years. Which takes it from $200 million to $300 million a year.
Right. So now you're talking about players who were, yes, their pay would have gone up because of 10% of that, but now because of how vastly that deal increased, now it's, hey, can we push that from 10% to whatever percentage they try to negotiate? So,
and I think, to me, this opens up, like you said, the 10 through 15 players, right? I think this opens the door for the WNBA to be able to expand more. Because you're adding 3 franchises by the year 2026. Patrick Mahomes is trying to push for a franchise in Kansas City. So I think this opens up the door as these ladies are showcasing more of themselves who don't get to showcase themselves on the WNBA stage, who might have went overseas. And if these ladies go overseas, they're really not going to get the attention that they would here in the States. And this opens up the doors for the WNBA to say, let's really open up franchises, okay? Because you can best believe, outside of the 3 that they're getting ready to do, and then, like I said, with Kansas City, there's other teams, there's other markets who are trying to, who would like to have a WNBA franchise.
Right.
But do they feel like it's a feasible idea? Is there enough good players to go around? Well, when you got 10 through 15 playing in this rival league and they're holding their own and they're really showcasing their skills, this says to this base right here, say, you know what? Yeah, let's start us a franchise, and we see 3 or 4 good players that we might be able to get a hold of. So I think this opens the door to not as competition, but as support. It supports the league by showcasing these other talents that these ladies who don't get a chance to show on a nightly basis, because you only have so many teams. And like you said, with the 3 that they come up, that only puts it to 16 teams. So on a given night, there's only going to be so many players that's showcasing what they're about. And 10 through 15 are not, because there's not enough of teams. There's not enough of, there's just not enough.
Right.
So I think this is a chance for them to showcase their self. This gives these other, places who are thinking about wanting to franchise out and, open their eyes and say, there is enough talent. There's plenty of talent that hasn't been tapped into because there's not enough markets. And it started like it was the same way with the NBA.
Right.
The same way with the NFL. Because if you look at where the NBA started at, the ABA was better than the NBA. The ABA just didn't have enough financial backing to keep their league afloat. So what they done, they merged. And now you got the NBA. Same thing with the NFL and the AFL. The AFL was a better league than the NFL because you had the Kansas City, the Chiefs, the Bears, the Packers. You had all those teams in the AFL, and the NFL was trying to do something, but they had the money. So I think this unrivaled starting, the WNBA shouldn't look at it as a competition and saying, "Oh, you're doing this to spite us." They're doing this to help y'all, to showcase more talented women and put them on showcase to potentially open up more doors in more cities to expand that league from 16 to 20 to 25 to the point where you might get up to them 30 teams in your league, and your market, your media deals are close to what the NBA media deals are. But the only way you can get there is you got to be able to showcase the talent other than your top tier players, And this Unrivaled is going to be able to do that. It's going to showcase their talents. It's going to showcase their talents to all these other markets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to give them that reason to contact what we need to do to start a franchise. What's it going to cost us? And that's going to open up so many opportunities to expand this league to where it's going to be 20 to 25 teams by the year 2020. Let's say 2030. I'm predicting 25 teams in the WNBA.
That's good to hear.
At least 25 to 26 teams.
Yeah, they definitely have the growth, so we'll continue looking at that. So again, that's our hot topic. We want to talk about that WNBA, the CBA, and just a future outlook as they continue to grow. So that's going to do it for our hot topic. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up with our closing thoughts. We're going to jump into just really quickly talk about the MLB, the Dodgers, or the Yankees, and then also one final thought on the WNBA, the finals championship. Take it away, sir.
Look, at the end of the day, sports is based off one thing. Money and championships. And money aside, the Dodgers went out. They spent money. They spent the money now. They spent the money. But they brought in what that money wanted. Those rings. Mm-hmm. Those championships. And Shohei Ohtani, first postseason, gets him a ring. But it all boiled down to I'm sorry. He had the record for most home runs in a postseason run. I want to say he had 5 straight. Freddie Freeman. I'm sorry, Freddie. I'm sorry. But this guy was on a tear. And the Dodgers was counted out. Even during the regular season, they were counted out. They were counted out in the playoffs against the Padres. And somehow, some way, they had that grit. They had that wherewithal. They fought through it. They go up against the New York Yankees. Mm-hmm. And with Aaron Judge, Soto, Stanton, you got all those big boppers. And you know how New York fans are. So it was an old rivalry. You had the Dodgers, used to be in Brooklyn back in the day, against the New York Yankees, everybody's most hated team. And they put on a show of shows. And the Dodgers showed that they were not a better team, but they were more sound, they were more fundamental, and they were more hungrier. So shouts out to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Shouts out to Freddie Freeman for winning the World Series MVP. Shouts out to Ohtani getting his first playoff appearance and pulling out, getting a ring. Awesome. So big shouts out to him. But yeah, just big shouts out to the Dodgers all around. And I definitely got to give a shout out to the Liberty. I know somebody on here, I ain't gonna call no names, looked in this camera a few weeks ago and said there was a championship coming to New York. But he said the Knicks were gonna bring it home. And I looked at him and I told him, I said, yeah, New York's going to get a championship, but it won't be the Knicks. It's going to be the Liberty. And Liberty, you did it. Sabrina, Brianna, ladies, y'all pulled it out. Man, when I say that was one of the best finals series I've ever seen. 2 of the 5 games went to overtime. 3 of the 5 was pretty much down to the last basket. There weren't no blowouts. Every game was hard fought, contested, close games. That was one of the best series finals matchups, and they showed just how good these ladies are and how good this league really is. Now that everybody is looking, everybody is paying attention to the work that they put in. And this series showed that this league has so much potential and why they deserve to get more of the revenue sharing, because this final series showed that. And big shouts out to Liberty, one of the expansion teams, original teams who never had a ring, one of the original teams from 28 years ago. Finally get their first ring. Big shouts out to the Liberty on that one.
Congratulations to both teams, the Dodgers, Liberty. Congratulations to you guys. Well deserved, well earned. Hey, this is going to do it for our episode. Again, this is FH Sports, where we talk sports all day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Next time, FH World.
FH Sports.